Hello, welcome to Kaiba Health and Life. I'm your host, Kristen Wolisnovich, and as always, by my side, host Lisa Metropolis.
What an incredible just guest we have today. But she's so many things.
She wears
so many
many
Yes,
hats.
I couldn't think of the right exact word. Your guest with us today, but you are incredible. I'm just so excited.
I am too. Without further ado, honor and privilege as always, Lisa.
Always.
To introduce Ann Partinsky. And like you said, many hats.
Yes.
You are an RN.
Yes.
You're a registered nurse. But what you are, which is so beautiful and magical, and really what we're going to tap into for Kaiba Health and Life is you are a holistic, integrated health developer.
Yes.
I love saying that.
Yes.
Okay, Ann,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that hat.
Okay, so yes, I've been a nurse now since 1999, and I worked the bedside for a lot of years. And as I grew into my nursing profession, I knew that there was something more that I needed to do, and that learning that nursing was a combination of mind, body, and spirit. There were elements at the bedside that were missing.
So it was you had gone to school and began your career really tapping into and dealing with Western medicine.
Correct.
But it sounds like there's this Eastern medicine, this holistic side that you really felt you needed a hybrid.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It really just became more of paper pushing and med pushing.
Oh,
And there was
yes.
so much more to nursing than that. So I walked away from the bedside and you know, I went into other areas of nursing, but along the way is where I really developed my spiritual journey, if you want to call it that. It really did happen on the day of my daughter's graduation in 2009. She was graduating from high school. And she was walking across the stage to get her diploma, and a voice inside my head said, "So do you want to live like this for the rest of your life?" And I had blurted out, "Hell no."
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue. And so that's where it all started to develop for me.
Lisa, isn't it funny? We interview day in, day out, and when we interview people who have had these spiritual awakenings, they always can tell the day and year.
They
Always.
they always know when their calling happened. Always.
Always.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
and it's funny to me. It's just you're sitting there by yourself with everyone, and out loud you say "hell no," and people are probably like, "What?
You were wondering what the heck
Are
I
you
was
okay?
talking about.
Do you have indigestion? Is things okay?"
You don't want her to have her diploma? Like, what's wrong with you? You know, so
Right.
Yeah, it truly was that. And then I just realized that I needed to do more for myself to figure out me. And she was my oldest child, and I still had two other children in high school at the time.
Okay.
But
Well,
you know,
because sometimes that awakening as a mother doesn't come until the last child. It's almost like you suppress it to get these kids where they need to be because we always put ourselves last.
Right.
correct.
And I had a very similar same thing awakening, and it was honestly the same year my older daughter graduated as well. Honestly, you say that your date, mine was 2016, and it happened probably 3 months after her high school graduation. It's weird how that works.
It really is. It really is. And, you know, I was raised to believe that working on yourself or being selfish.
Self-care.
Yeah, it was selfish. Who are you to question whether or not your life is happy? What do you mean? You have a great family. You have a wonderful career. What could you want more for yourself?
Yeah.
You have kids. There's no such thing as me time.
Correct.
I have an old school generation family that those have been their exact words. What do you mean me time? What does that even mean? You have kids.
Exactly.
And there's a disconnection there.
There's an absolute disconnection there. And I think it's what we say is, you know, you grow up and humans are such creature of habit, right? So there's this generational, cyclical, and we'll get more into it, learned behavior that probably transcends for all three of us for hundreds of years through family. And there is such rich magic in tradition, but there's also some other stuff that comes with tradition. And that's what we want to talk to you about today is breaking the cycle. And really, there's something you talk about, and I'd like you to tell our viewers and listeners, access consciousness.
Yeah, so access consciousness is something that I'm just newly getting involved in within the last month, but it's remarkable because when I started my spiritual journey in 2011, 2009, 2011 area, there was bits and pieces that were handed to me. Like I started out with your typical gurus, right? Deepak Chopra, Oprah. I started watching all of those and getting more into them. Little by little, I started even listening more to Dr. Wayne Dwyer and Abraham Hicks. And so all these names sound very familiar, right? In the spiritual world.
Yes.
But I still felt like something along the way was missing. Now, I have to say I'm very grateful for them because it started to open up and illuminate my mind a little bit more as to, wait a second, what is all of this about? And why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? So
You knew you were tapping into something.
I
big.
was tapping into something big, and I started to actually delve into my past life with my experience with abuse for 11 years. Okay. And that was sexual abuse in my family. Then from there, when I left my home at 17, I got involved with a gentleman who was my fiance at the time, in which I had suffered another 2.5 years of physical abuse by him, emotional abuse by him. I was living with him, so I left my home and went into a even more treacherous home.
So, well, real quickly, not to interrupt, but it's and you're actually the one who had said it during the pre-interview. You are in this in your household, and you're getting traumatic sexual abuse, and then we look for any type of love that we can latch on to outside of the home. So this is what you said you probably did at a very young age.
Yes.
Okay.
And very suave and sophisticated young man at that time.
Yes.
So
Master manipulator.
Correct. If it's too good to be true, young ladies, it is too good to be true. So just remember that.
Take that nugget with you, kids.
Yes. So from there, I, like I said, as I started to grow and develop spiritually, I know I had 7 suicide attempts when I was going through all of this trauma. I was lost. I was very lost. And I went through the motions. I had met my husband and we had developed a family together, and the marriage, it was a typical marriage. I had all kinds of ups and downs and things that you can go through. Yeah. Okay. But within myself was this volcano, is the only way I could explain it. It was slowly erupting until the day where my daughter graduated, and then it just fully erupted. And I knew that I had to look deeper because I was living a life of resenting my parents for the abuse, resenting the ex-fiance, blaming everybody, thinking that everybody in the world owed me. I owed no one nothing because I was the victim. So I went through years of that and carrying that. And, unfortunately,
or fortunately,
both. My husband bared a lot of the burden of ex-people who had hurt me. Yeah, I have to say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I take complete credibility for that. That I made him suffer for past experiences.
You'll read. I get a lot of social media wisdom, right? It's don't hurt the person who didn't cut you in the first place. Right?
And I was too young to know any different, right?
We didn't know.
They're doing the time for someone else's emotional crime.
Yes. Lisa?
Yes.
We're going to start creating our own Cup of Health and Life memes.
Yes.
Can you write that down, please? Lisa Metropolis.
Yes.
And that's true. That's
true.
Happened.
It's true. And along with that, in a sense, so did my children suffer that.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So they suffered the past of what was given to me, and they didn't deserve it. They really didn't deserve it.
And you didn't know that you were giving them that poison.
Nope.
You didn't know.
Not until I started to grow more and more and more, and then learn through access consciousness to ask questions, not presume that you have the answers to everything.
Right.
Because as we were talking in the pre-interview, when you presume that you have the answers to everything and it doesn't work out the way you thought your answer should, you become depressed. You become anxious, angry, resentful. So I had to learn to let that go.
And it's really hard to do, right? Because as we grow, from the day we're born, well, really in the womb to up to 7 years old, that is when really that foundation, that bedrock is laid. We don't even know that, but that is the most critical time of your life. So it's a time where we all, we say, oh my gosh, we react, we get angry, we get emotional, we get depressed, which are all very natural emotions to have because we are human beings. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is once you identify why it's happening, that's when it's free. That's where the freedom comes,
Right.
and the empowerment.
Correct. Because now you don't have to bury the burden of thinking that you have the answers to everything of all of life when you don't.
Or you're the reason why everything's going wrong.
Correct. It's judgment. And when you act or say a statement as if though you know for sure it is right, it actually leads to judgment. You're judging other people for not having the same thought that you do.
Yeah, I do
And you
that.
know what? It may not be their reality.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because your story, your journey, your reality is
yours.
and yours alone.
And
right.
yours to create and yours to determine.
Correct. That's exactly it. So instead of looking at the world with judgmental eyes, how about looking at the world as if though you yourself is the gift that the world needs right now? You know?
And that's the goal.
Yes.
And that's
That's the end game.
And that's the end game. And in the pre-interview, we were talking because I'm very guilty of, like I said, being a judgy McJudgerson with definitely family members, definitely my husband on social issues, consciousness issues, and I view them as, well, his moral compass isn't, it's not as upward as mine, if that's
And
what
progressive,
he thinks.
right.
And progressive. And yeah, I've thought that. And so the end game is trying to get to this point of not being judgment. That awakening, I know there's a way.
But you need help, right?
I don't know
That's
how.
what you said.
Right.
I'm blocked. I have no idea, and I'm a pretty smart and aware, and I like to say I'm awakened to a point, but not to that extent. And I want to be. I don't know how to be.
How does she get there, Ann?
Well, there's one thing that I've learned most recently is what the Access Consciousness calls the clearing statement. Okay. So a clearing statement is just that. It's something when you feel as if though you're about ready to be judged, or you are judging someone else, or there's a point of turmoil in your life.
Yeah.
You ask, does this truly belong to me? Does this belong to me? And if you feel light,
Then it doesn't.
then it's the truth.
Okay.
It's the truth.
Okay.
Then that truly does belong to you. But if you feel heavy and weighted down, like, and your stomach doesn't feel right, listen to your body, everybody. Listen to your body, because your body will tell you the truth.
Okay.
If it's heavy, it's a lie.
Like, I don't really think this way. My mom and dad.
This is your
I
internal
always-
struggle.
I always grew up thinking this way, but do I really care if this person
Correct.
thinks like that? No, because
No.
it's really, in the big scheme of things, it's not going to hurt.
Correct.
Isn't
me
that-
he thinks that way,
That's
or
right.
they think that way?
And I had a big flashback because I know, like, if you have an interaction and you leave, like, I'm getting this flashback of always being in my car and mad and let it, and that's the heaviness, right? And that's when you go,
Correct.
this isn't mine.
Right.
This isn't mine.
Road rage, perfect example, right?
Yes.
So somebody cuts you
Yeah.
off. Normally, you will just start flipping them off, honking the horn. Instead, now what I do is I tend to say, okay, a rational person wouldn't act like this, correct? And
Right.
the answer says, yeah, no, they wouldn't react. Okay,
Right.
well, I send this energy back to its original owner with love and light, and I let it go. And
You
I
let it go.
I let it go.
Wow.
I just let it be.
That's huge, isn't
I
it?
have no idea what that person's story is. They could be on a way to a medical emergency. They could be, whatever their reality is, I'm not a part of it.
That's how I feel, because if I'm driving and someone comes up directly on me, I don't get mad and slow down. I'm like, you know what? That person needs to get somewhere. I'm going to get over. It's their journey. Let them go. Because oftentimes you'll see people go, oh, they're not getting past me. I'm going to slow down and make their life hard.
Yeah, that's
Actually, I mean, it's how symbolic and poetic. Just move over. It's not yours. Let it go.
Just let it go.
And that's what I wanted to ask you, and you kind of answered it in talking, is in removing the judgment, okay? Because judgment is so automatic for all of us, and it's how we were raised, and it's very predispositioned and very sub-programmed. And you're giving us tools to start to learn to not be judgmental. But that's what I was going to ask you. How do we find our truth? How do you find your truth? Like the judgment is now very automatic. Like it's very subconscious. It's automatic. So once it flows and we're able to kind of identify and assess it, is that your truth? Whether you let it go or if it's light, that's your truth.
Can you let it go? Yeah.
When it's light, it is your truth. Okay, that's a true statement there. So again, if you feel as if though that does not, I always say pose the question. We're taught to pose questions. Okay. How does it get better than this? Whether it's something that is good or whether it's something that is bad. Okay, so let's say you just got a raise. How does it get better than this? Okay. Let's say you didn't receive a promotion. How does it get better than this?
Right.
And allow the answer to come to you, not where you are trying now
Force
to control.
it.
Right. Where
Control
you're
it.
trying to, take control of the situation. Let it just come to you because that's when you see possibilities start to birth themselves. Good or bad.
They surface.
Yes.
It's serendipitous, isn't it?
Correct.
It comes to you.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk a
Absolutely.
little bit, and then that leads us into energy transference. Tell us a little bit about that, and that's scientific.
Yeah, sure. Everyone knows Reiki energy healings these days. It's much more popular than it was, 10, 15 years ago when it was really the hippie movement.
Right.
But, regardless, whether people want to tend to believe it or not only does our bodies hold energy, but the thoughts, perceptions, ideas, beliefs that we have all contain energy. Okay?
Separate energy from your body.
Separate energy. And whenever you have the negative thoughts, it will feed the body negatively and it will start affecting every cell. Hence why you have dis-ease. Simple as that.
Absolutely.
It really is.
100% agree.
Yeah, it's very common sense, right? But a lot of people have a hard time jumping on this. So energy transference, you give birth to your energies and you give birth to your ideas. So the energies feed the ideas, right? So there is no way of separating the two. It is one consistent flow. So the trees have energy, people have energy, stones have energy. There is this constant movement of energy that is going. So within yourself, it's amazing how I've said to you guys during the pre-interview that man created a computer, which is the same as the human brain. It can be programmed, deprogrammed. You can take the trash out of it. You can dump it.
You can delete.
You can delete. Yep. But yet we find it hard to connect that way with ourselves.
I think we find it hard to delete.
Correct.
So we store and then we think we can just store and store and store when the reality is, and I'll talk the language of our sweet producer, Zach, big kudos to Zach, is you don't have the storage for that. He's very technical.
Yeah.
And I think especially in this, and this is why I think our kids struggle so much as well, is because we're in the information era, right? So there's no excuse not to know about anything in the world, correct? We used to call that a library card. You'd go to the library, you'd look into the index, and you could really control the influx of information that's coming to you. Our children do not have that luxury anymore. They have massive influx and massive reaction. But what I think has come with these kids now is also awareness. There's been, not so good things with social media, but there's also massively beautiful things with social media.
A connection.
And information and the ability to, I don't have to be friends with this person who's spewing hatred and negativity. Oh, look at my friend Anne who just put the most beautiful experience up. And wow, I get to almost feel like I'm experiencing it with her. And I think it starts from the top bottom, right? Like once you have the mental health and the self-care and the wellness, then it manifests throughout
It
flows.
the entire body.
Absolutely.
And when you were you were talking about deletion, and Kristen said is
purging.
Well, and it's flowing, and it flows from the top to the bottom. That something hit me that I think it's difficult. And tell me your thoughts on this. Sure. I think it's very difficult for us as humans to help to very healthily delete a lot of
the
those
trash.
because of empathy. I think that a lot of times we are, like for me, I know just specifically, I have some I have an attachment issue, and it has been unhealthy in the past. It's not anymore because I've learned to do those things. But empathy has played the biggest role in those unhealthy attachment
And
issues.
real quickly, and I'm going to let you answer.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head where we are different from the computer systems. We are feeling sensitive, empathetic beings.
It's empathy, yeah.
And that is what we have to practice and shape.
And that can be a healthy way.
And it's hard.
Yes,
It's hard.
It's very difficult.
But have you ever noticed there are people that don't practice empathy at all?
Sure.
Yes, the sociopaths.
Right?
They're so,
Yeah.
but I think that's our society as well. We have to become desensitized because we have so much negativity also coming at us. You see homicides, you see death, you see torture, you see a political unrest in our entire country. You see family members not even speaking to each other anymore. Now
Their computer is full, guys. Okay, it's as simple as that. Their computer is full. They cannot see any other way. There's no room to put in a new program. So until you can learn to actually break those things down, and again, there is like I said, there's a clearing statement. And just to make it really short, it's like 7 different items, but we POC and pot it. So when there's a situation that comes up, we look at the point of creation and the point of destruction. Okay, if you think back to a painful childhood memory, okay, such as my abuse, I know exactly what happened, the age I was, I know exactly where I was at the time when it happened. That was the point of creation for my foundation. Okay, so you got
destruction as well.
And destruction.
Yeah.
So now what I do when I go through life's challenges, and there are days where I still wake up, you guys, and I feel challenged or I feel drained, I will just say, okay, does this belong to me? And if I feel like it doesn't, then I just say I send it back with love and light to the point of creation, the point of destruction. Let it be done. This is done. Okay? And it helps you learn to move forward.
And progress.
And progress, yeah.
And progress.
Correct.
And I think it's so important that we all have traumas, all of us.
Yeah.
And we all had it at a very young age from when we had thought and cognitives. And it's all identifying that trauma, because what happens was from the first time we received what is defined as a traumatic event, right? Your earliest childhood memory, right?
Yep.
And then that helps form and shape who you are and helps create your character and your journey and your path. But then what happens is as we get older or hormones develop and we start to evolve, then those traumas turn into anxiety, depression, panic attacks, cortisol, adrenaline. And what you're talking about is identifying and ensuring that your mind understands what it is so that your body doesn't react in fight or flight, because that's the stressor, that's the killer, that's the dis-ease. We're all we have our DNA, we're all genetically programmed. However, let's say you do have the breast cancer, and I'm just giving an example, gene, because you've had family members that have passed at a young age, or even you're self-diagnosed at a young age. Chances are, even if you carry that gene, only 5% of the population, it will surface, and it's all based on stress, inflammation, and emotions.
Exactly. So when you learn to use this clearing statement more and more, you start to understand what exactly does belong to you and what doesn't. And when it doesn't, it's okay. It's history. It's not even your history. It's not even your truth.
Right.
No.
It's generational.
Sure.
And since it's generational, let it go. We can let it go.
Right.
And we can actually reprogram and make room in our brains for new programming and new possibilities. Because again, even through all of this, I call it, what Access Consciousness calls the monkey mind, right? Your mind is just racing in 1,000 different places and you don't know up from down. Once you let all of that go, what you can create, whether it's mind, body, or
endless.
Spirit, is endless.
How beautiful is that?
How
and how
simple is that?
Simple. And what a gift to
Right.
give your body
Right.
to operate in a balanced state 24/7. I mean, it's not real. Listen, let's be real, because people will say that's not realistic. It is.
It is.
Yes, it is.
It is. It's the higher awakening.
It's your higher power.
Yes.
And it's
It's
your
re-
reality
yes.
that you're able to create.
Yes.
And no one or nothing or anyone can disturb it.
Correct. And you can heal.
Yes.
You can heal. Like I was telling you during the pre-interview, your migraines, I said, well, that's just energy. That's energy moving.
Yes. Yes.
And your body's telling you something, so go with
Listen
it.
to it.
Listen
What is,
to
what
it.
is it saying? What is it that you need to think about or, absorb or let go of?
Let go of. Probably.
And real quickly, because we're running out of time, you're
Sure,
absolutely
sure.
amazing.
Thank
You've
you.
taught us so much about like judgment, letting go of judgment, expectation, really not, quit having expectations, because you're always going to have the letdown.
Yes.
And once you operate in that massive balance, the abundance, if you will,
Yes.
will just start to surface magically.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Wow. This is really some powerful stuff. And I mean, to be honest, we're just tapping. We're just tapping into the surface. And I know you do a lot of consultation and you do a lot of work. How can people get a hold of you?
Well, they can look for me actually right now on Facebook.
Okay.
Just under Ann Partinsky.
Excellent.
And I will definitely, I'm still working on the website and all of that good stuff. So that's a work in progress.
But it's beautiful. And I know on a personal level, you've been a dear friend for years, and you've been a dear safety net and a big counsel and mentor to me.
Thank you.
And for that, I'm eternally grateful. And this stuff takes practice, guys. Trust me.
It does, but
it's a mental
how
muscle. Yeah.
does it get better than this? And what else is possible?
Honor and privilege. Ann Partinsky, healer, registered nurse, holistic integrated health developer. We love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Only
you
the
so much.
beginning. And the beautiful Lisa Metropolis,
Thank you.
as always. Thank you. And I'm your host, Kristen Willisnovich. The biggest thank you to you, our viewers and listeners. This has been Kaiba Health and Life.